Listening to the IFF TV podcast.
Hello, McIntyre's Football Fan TV. This is the League of Ireland show. I'm joined by Gary Spain, and we're here to discuss all of the Premier Division games from over the weekend. And obviously, we'll start off with the Dublin Derby. Shamrock Rovers won. St. Patrick's Athletic won. I was obviously at the game, Gary, but I just want to get your thoughts on the game. I think you were watching at home. And what did you think? Because this was obviously... everybody's expecting Shamrock Rovers to dominate, but at the same time they did lose large chunks of their team in terms of their midfield and their creativity. But what did you make of them, I suppose, in the first half, and Pats as well?
Yeah, I suppose if we want to even go back a little bit, Paul, I think people have been expecting Rovers to dominate for a few years with the budget, the players, the facilities they have in Tala, Roadstone, etc. And finally, last year, it definitely came through. They were the totally dominant side. And it's very difficult to win a league, and Rovers did some job in winning the league last year. But it's even more difficult to retain a league. And that's because Rovers now are the champions. They're the team that everyone wants to take down. And so this was going to be a very tough start for them, because they're up against a Pats side that they didn't beat last season. They drew twice with Pats. And Pats could have beaten them as well in both of those games. So it was a tough game for Rovers. And add into the fact then that I know they've got in some fine signings, but they've lost Jack Byrne and Aaron McAniff, who were two of their best players last season. So I was very interested. I mean, I was watching it on TV, so I appreciate it's not the same as being in the stadium. You don't get to see all the angles. But so I was very interested to see how Rovers would react and would perform. And of course, it's very early days yet, and I still expect them probably to win the league in the end, but certainly to be very much near the top. But I suppose the first thing I'd say is I'll give credit to Pats, because I thought Stephen O'Donnell set Pats up very well. And they made life really difficult for Rovers. And they were certainly worthy of going in at 0-0 at half-time. And just Rovers didn't seem to have the creative edge that Jack Byrne gave them last season. That little spark was missing, and definitely the energy of Aaron McAniff in midfield was definitely missing. Now, it's very early days, but I suppose from my point of view, I was very, very impressed with Pats. They played really well. They were well organised. And I believe, I saw Stephen Bradley talking afterwards and saying they sat deep. I actually don't agree with that. I think Pats actually really pressed Rovers, and they pressed Rovers high up the pitch, and it gave them problems. And so I suppose from my perspective, I would say I was very impressed with Pats, and things are looking good for them for the season. So I don't know what you thought of the first half.
Well, I think you're right. I think Pats did press, but they were sitting back as well. Like, there was periods where Pats were pressing, but there was periods where they were sitting back too, and rightly so. Why would, when you look at the quality that Shamrock Rovers have, why wouldn't you sit back at times? Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, you're just going to leave yourself open through. I think if Ronan Coughlin can get firing for Pats, I think that's what they've been lacking the last number of years. They're very good and they play like an attractive style of football, but they just don't put the ball in the net enough. They've got really good quality players in there. You think of Benson, Forrester. They've added Paddy Barrett, John Mountney to the team there. Obviously, have won things with Dundalk and stuff like that. They've got Shane Griffin, who was good with Cork as well. The left back, Lee Desmond, looks like a really good central defender as well. And the keeper in goals was really good, Yaros, on loan from Liverpool too. So look, Stephen O'Donnell has assembled a really good squad there to add to what he already has. He's got Ireland under 21 international there, Jamie Lennon there too, who's a really good player there. So they have good players. It's just a matter of, I suppose, just adding goals to their game. And from a Shamrock Rovers point of view, it's just they remind me of Arsenal. a few years back, and I think Gary Neville had mentioned this before on kind of when they went through that period of signing very like-minded players, the likes of like Arshav and Rashiki, all those types of players who are very creative, but they all kind of play in the same sort of positions. And I think that's what Rovers are a little bit like, in terms of they've got a lot of like-minded midfielders who can come in, like you think of Ronan Finn, Dylan Watts. The only one who's kind of, I suppose, different in some ways is Chris McCann, who looks really, really good. He drops in deep, gets the ball. When teams are pressing, he drops in deep and gets it on the turn and starts attacks. He's really, really good. But you're kind of looking around the rest of the team. They seem to be playing in a, like I watched Sean Gannon. He's very, very high up. You've got Liam Scales very, very high up as well. And Liam Scales is a centre back. Let's not forget, and he's playing ahead of the likes of Sean Kavanagh and probably Neil Ferrugia as well. He's doing quite well, actually. I would say, for someone who's supposed to be a centre back. But like Sean Gannon was almost playing as like a right midfielder the other night. He was that high up a lot of the time, and Sean Hoare seems to be covering that space on the right hand side. So I think, look, it's a matter for Shamrock Rovers, is that they're trying to get used to obviously the new players fitting into the system, of course, and then at the same time they're trying to score the perfect goal. I think Stephen Bradley had said it too. They're just trying to score the perfect goal instead of maybe, just having a go. And another player I obviously forgot to mention is, like, they have Graham Burke and Danny Mandrell to add to those players, where, as I say, they're all quite similar mind and kind of take up the same sort of spaces on the pitch. That's not saying that they're bad players or anything like that, but they all kind of get into the same kind of areas, and they kind of overload the areas a little bit, maybe, when they should probably spread out a little bit. Like, I know we spoke on previous shows in the teams of the seasons and whatever, and we're like, we don't know where Graham Burke plays. We could probably say the same now about Dan Mandrell, because they're kind of all over the place. And I know that, look, a lot of defences don't really know how to deal with that, but I thought Pats actually did deal with that really well. In saying that, I think the more games that Rovers play, I think the better they will get, and the more things will start to kind of happen for them. I think Dan Mandrell was quite good the other night. I think he's just lacking a goal. I remember there was a chance he had, I think it was in the second half, where he took an extra touch in the box and he just didn't need to. He probably, in a normal day, he would have just had a strike and it probably would have went in, and he'd be in good form. But there was a lot of tackles in the game, flying in. Like, I mean, there was battles all over the pitch, and look, it was a tasty affair. It wasn't entertaining or anything like that until the last couple of minutes, with obviously the 2 goals. But maybe it's because I haven't been to games in so long. I just enjoyed the game. Just the fact that there was a game on. You know what I mean? Because obviously there was pre-season and stuff like that. You weren't allowed to 10 games and stuff like that. It's still not the same without fans, and I've said that previously, but I think it was a good game to start off the season, and it was very much a first game of the season kind of type of game. It was kind of slow, it was edgy, there was tackles coming in from both sides, and you could have easily had a red card in this game as well. And obviously that over the years there's been many red cards in that fixture as well. But I think from both sides' point of view, I think Rovers after the game would have taken a point. Obviously, going a goal down at that time of the game. I think Pats before the game would have taken a point. So I think it evened itself out in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a tasty affair. I mean, East Dublin derbies, with or without fans, it mightn't be the best football in the world, but there's so much at stake, and they're always good to watch. So, I mean, you take Rovers, Pats, Bows, Shells, and they will be back in the Premier Division very soon. So all those teams, you are going to get a tasty affair. There's so much at stake. They're really going to go for it. And you couldn't question the commitment of anybody that went on the pitch in Tala on Friday night. I mean, everybody was up for it. As you said, first game of the season, maybe players are not as sharp as you want them to be. But certainly everybody was up for it. Was ready to go, and so I quite enjoyed the game. I think it makes good television, and I think more games. Obviously, it's great. We have all the games on Watch LOI and LOI TV, but I'd like to see it that, especially in these times, that there's at least one game live every week, because it just gets a far bigger, wider audience, and it promotes the league when, unfortunately, we can't bring fans along to games. Because it's not just, I suppose, those of us who do go to League of Ireland games regularly when crowds are allowed, we're already the the faithful. We're already you're preaching to the choir and people like us. But it's nice to bring along when fans are allowed, new people, introduce them to the league, and I think these type of games are great to go to, even as a neutral. They can be very enjoyable. So I would say hats off to everybody on Friday night, because I think it was great entertainment, and it would have been so much better if fans had been there. Can you imagine the away end in Tala when Robbie Benson's going to claim it? It's going down as a Pico Lopez own goal, I think. But when that ball hit the net in Tala, it would have been right in front of the away fans and all. That would have been
the home fans there.
Something.
Oh, sorry, Robbie Benson. I thought you meant the Rovers.
Yeah. When the imagine the away end of that, and then I was going to go on and say when Aaron Green got the equaliser right into the south stand, that would have been pretty special for the home fans as well. But yeah, so it's an awful shame the fans aren't there, and hopefully, but I've been saying this for too long, and I appreciate why fans can't be at games, but just hopefully we'll get back to crowds at games soon.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I spoke with Stephen Bradley, Stephen O'Donnell, and Yaros after the game, so you can hear that here.
Stephen, 1-1 draw in the end. I suppose that's 2 draws if you count last week as well. Over the 90 minutes. How have you found it so far? Obviously, we're in a new season now. You're probably not looking into it too much, but it's still kind of finding your feet a little bit.
Yeah, I think what we got to take out is that 2 good sides last week and this week have come and sat in. So I think that's what we're going to face, and we got to respect that and be ready for that. And when we get our chances like we did tonight, we need to take them, because we had some good chances in their box, and we're trying to score the perfect goal instead of just letting fly and shooting, But that's something that we definitely need to improve.
Yeah, I would have said that as well. It almost look you just get into the final third, and then it's just not being able to find either that pass or, as you say, take that shot to let it fly in. How have you been how impressed have you been with your new signings? I think Chris McCann looks really good in that middle of the park, and then obviously Dano coming in. How impressed have you been with him?
Yeah, they've been excellent. I think Chris has shown his real quality last week, and this week he's shown what he's going to bring to us. He's shown the level that he plays at. He plays the game at his tempo, and we play at his tempo. So he's been excellent. I think both Seans have been very good, and we'll only get better with how we play. But I think tonight Danny Mandrew showed what he's all about. I thought he showed some moments of real quality, which was really good to see.
I think we probably start seeing the best of him once he gets 1 goal. I think that'll be when the confidence really starts to show him, maybe. Yeah,
I think that was all that was missing from his game tonight. I felt he worked really hard. He created chances. He was bright and clever on the ball. His positions are really good, and he needs to score that chance in the box. Like you said, taking an extra touch. But once one of them goes in, I think Danny will start scoring.
Yeah, I was looking even around the hour mark. You made obviously the substitutions. Just looking at your midfield, even though you've lost Aaron, Greg and Jack, you're still able to have the likes of Gary O'Neill's not really getting a look in anymore. You've got Dylan Watts coming off the bench and stuff like that. You have still got real quality in that squad you have there.
Yeah, we planned for that. We have real quality. I think Gary was going to be a really important player for us this year. I've no doubt about that. Chris is just playing well at the moment, and he plays. But Gary's a big player, a player that we really like, and he'll have a good season for us, Gary.
A 1-1 result. Give me your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, happy with the performance in the sense of the work ethic and application. I thought we started the game by far the better team, and then lost our way a little bit, and then I thought we finished the game stronger as well. So very happy with my boys. Obviously, when you concede so late after going 1-0 up so late, you're naturally disappointed, but on the whole, when I reflect on it over the weekend, I'm happy with our performance in the sense of all I was asking from the boys was attitude and application. They gave me that.
How has it been for the new signings? A few of them playing there tonight seem to be settling in quite well.
Yeah, it's been a smooth transition in the sense of there's been a new faces, but they've gelled really well with the squad that were there from last year. So I've got a real hard working bunch, and one I'm really looking forward to working with. Yeah,
do you think tonight, I know it's the first game of the season, but do you think tonight gives you a bit of confidence that you can mix it with the bigger teams this year?
Well, if you go through our personnel, look at the players we have, of course we can mix it in the sense of look at their individual careers. We have players that have won leagues, have played in Europe. We've played players that have played cross channel. We have under 21 internationals. So we have players with pedigree. So there's no doubt in our minds that we're going to be a match for anyone. But ultimately, it has to come from attitude and application. And the game we had tonight, and still lots and lots to improve on, as there is every game. But particularly tonight, we saw lots that we can improve on, and we will improve on.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for your time, Stephen. Alright, your debut in the League of Ireland.
I think it was good, except for the last 3 minutes where we conceded. But up to then, I think it was brilliant. Lads done great. I think I've done well as well. So I'm quite happy with it.
Yeah, you pulled off some good saves in this half and the second half down this end of the goal.
Yeah.
Did you think at that point you just were going to hang on, or did you foresee getting the late goal, I suppose?
Yeah, it was one of them. I was thinking we might get one. I mean, I'll keep the boys in the game with the back four, and then we'll get something up the other end and get a goal, and then we can just win it. But it didn't happen.
How impressed have you been with your teammates since you've arrived at St. Pat's? How have you found, obviously, moving over to Ireland and settling in with these new teammates?
It's been great. Nothing but good things to say about the lads. Since I come in, they helped me to settle in and stuff. The level's great. You know what I mean? All the lads are fit, ready to go. So really happy with it.
Yeah, and just from taking, obviously this is Shamrock Rovers last season's champions, do you feel as though now you could maybe kick on? I know it's the first game of the season, but you can mix now with the top teams in the division?
Yeah, definitely. It's basically what Gaffer's been saying. We've had a few lads come in, the team's young, everyone's to impress, and I think it's there to fight for, so why not?
Okay, thanks very much for your time, Rory.
Thank you, cheers.
Okay, on to Drogheda and Waterford. Drogheda winning 1-0 with a late goal. Own goal, I believe. And Drogheda starting the season off with a bang. I think in Droghed's case, and from the season previews I did with the fans, we had Shane on from the Waterford group, and he said that he thinks that Waterford are going to struggle this season. I think if there was a game that you had been looking at starting off really well against Drogheda, have just came up this season, and I think have bought really well. In terms of Waterford, who we don't know too many of their signings, a lot of them have been loan signings from England, and in some cases they've worked in previous years, but a lot of them are unknown right now, and obviously they're going to have a chance to prove themselves over the course of the season. But I think Shane was saying that Kevin Sheedy was maybe brought in and promised things, and maybe not been given the promises that he was going to be told, and then Waterford on the other hand, I think bought experience and bought Premier Division experience in there, you know what I mean? So from your point of view, obviously the result was 1-0 to Drogheda. Was that a shock to you, or were you expecting them to maybe nick it at home?
Yeah, no, it wasn't a shock. I think, as you said, Drogheda, they brought in experienced players, guys in the league like Dane Massey, Ronan Murray, etc. And I think it's a very good move, and I was expecting Drogheda to win the game. Now, I know it took until the 89th minute to get the goal, and it was an own goal, but it was a match Drogheda dominated, and Waterford were really hanging on for the point. Now, it was probably a good time to get Waterford in that, as you said, there's a lot of players in on loan. They don't know each other. They're just gelling. They weren't great pre-season. They'd drawn with Treaty United, which was the first game out at all for Treaty United, and I was actually, from a Limerick perspective, I was delighted Treaty got a draw. But then Cork went down to the RSC and beat Waterford 3-0, and it probably meant, well, maybe you can't draw too much from pre-season, because I know I'll go back and I can point to some great pre-seasons when it fell flat when the league came around, and likewise some terrible pre-seasons that came good. But it's going to take Waterford time. It's going to take Kevin Sheedy and Mike Newell time to get that Waterford squad right. So it was a good time for Drogheda to get them at home. And look, they were a bit lucky with the goal. It was a cross from Brown, and it was Cameron Evans, I think, just deflected it past keeper, no chance. Yeah, it's a great win for Drogheda, and I actually think they're going to be okay. I can see them staying up. Just United Park is a great advantage for them. It's a very tight pitch, and it's a tough. Heading the Game Park, sorry. I know I'm getting these new stadiums, I'll get them wrong. Heading the Game Park, that's correct. It's a tough place to go. It's a tight pitch. When you do get fans in there, and which hopefully, again, I keep saying this, but hopefully it's soon, they will be very much on top of the pitch as well. So there's always a great atmosphere there. Even if the crowd isn't that big, you can get a really good atmosphere in that stadium. And I think it helps as well that everyone's under a roof. So the away fans are under a roof, the main stand is at a roof, and the vocal home fans on the far side have a roof as well. And a lot of noise can be generated there. And obviously not at the moment. But that's going to be a big advantage to Drogheda. And because I think it's their home form is going to help them to stay up. And let's be realistic. I know they're joint top or joint second in the table on goal difference, but Drogheda's aim this season is to stay up. And this was a great start for them. They've brought in some experienced players, and I think they're going to be very tough to beat, particularly in Head in the Game Park. And so hats off to them. For Waterford, I think it's going to be a long season because there's no bad teams in this division. It's a 10-team league. It's very tight. It's very competitive. And they have a lot of loan players in. They will be finding their feet. They don't have experience of playing in this league. Okay, I appreciate they can be at good clubs in England, but they're going to need to learn fast and perform quickly. And they're also going to have to battle. And they're very much, Waterford are going to be in a relegation battle, I think, this season. There's no doubt about that. And it will be a battle. Because if you look at the teams, and I know some fans mightn't be too happy with me on this, if I look at the top of the table, it makes a bit of a lie of what I'm going to say. But if you look at the teams that I expected to be in that battle, you've got the likes of Finn Harps, Longford and Drogheda. And maybe the league table is doesn't bear out what I'm going to say, but I think they're the teams you'd expect to see at the bottom. And from a Waterford perspective, it would be concerning because the likes of Drogheda and Finn Harps in particular, they're going to battle for every ball, every point. And Longford have just come up from the first division as well. So it's going to be a long season for Waterford, and they need those lone players to find their feet very quickly.
I think you're right, though, but I wouldn't read too much into it after one game. Like, let's not forget when Shells came up and done quite well. They bet Pats and Cork as well, first couple of games, and then ultimately over the course of the season. It was a crazy season, I know, but I don't think you can read too much into it until maybe after about 10 games are played. So yeah, it's going to be a long season for them, I think, as well. I think their fans have admitted that. Shane was on, he's a very realistic Waterford fan, and he said the same. Whereas, Drogheda are optimistic that they'll probably stay up and hope to finish kind of maybe mid-table. Probably be a fairly good season for them in their first season back in the top flight. That's what they'll be hoping for. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen right now. But they've definitely got off to a really, really good start. And as you mentioned there, like the likes of Dane Massey, and then you have Ronan Murray, and then you have as well Gary Deegan in midfield as well, who brings that Premier Division experience too. So he's got Dinny Corcoran there as well. Are you all right there?
Sorry, yeah, my laptop needs to be charged. Sorry.
No hassle.
Sorry, I'm sorry about that. It was actually just totally running out of battery.
No, I didn't know what was going on. I thought your thing anyway. It's not a big deal. And you got Dinny Corcoran there, who also brings Premier Division experience. So I think in that sense they've bought well, and they've got younger players there that are coming through the ranks there too. So I think Drogheda are in a good position in terms of staying up. They also got Dan O'Reilly as well from Shells as well. He didn't really play that much last year, but he played, and I actually got his thoughts on the game, which you can hear here. We're joined on the line by Drogheda United's Dan O'Reilly after Drogheda's 1-0 win over Waterford on Friday night. Dan, how are you keeping?
How's it going, Paul?
Good. And yourself? You must be buzzing after that win on Friday night. Give us your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, look, it was great to start off with a win. We left it late, but look, I think we had enough chances in the game to win. Look, we just wanted to start off with a positive result, whether it was with a draw or a win. We weren't too sure what Waterford were going to be about, but look, it's even sweeter when you get in the last few minutes. And given the results yesterday as well, I think it's an important one so far.
Just obviously on that, coming up from the first division last year, obviously with Drogheda, you obviously just signed for them and stuff. But how key was it to get a result on the first night? It's 3 points straight in the bank.
Yeah, I think it's really important to start off well, because you don't want to be waiting too long for your first result, because it can hang in your heads. Oh, look, we've just come up, we can't get a result, and like it's tough. Like, do you know what I mean? If you can't get a win, like you're thinking, oh, when are we going to get a win? We think going into any game we can get a result, but it's really important the first game to kind of set your marker, and I think it will give the lads a bit more belief now in the group that look. We're a good group. We have good players, and I think collectively, it'll bring a lot of confidence.
Just on that, you're talking about players coming in. Obviously, you're included in that bunch. How's it been for you? Because I was at a lot of Shells game last year. You didn't seem to get a lot of game time after doing quite well within half the season before. So how have you found it now? You're starting to get a good run of games. You've had a pre-season and stuff. So how's it been for you?
Yeah, it's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed my time so far. Look, I know it's early days. There's lots of competition for places in the squad. So for me, I just want to do as best I can. I think that when I'm playing well, I think I'm a really good asset to any team. So look, I just wanted to bounce back from a disappointing year personally and obviously collectively for Shells last year. I knew this year would be really important for me to kind of prove to myself, but also prove to others that I can obviously stay at this level consistently,
Yeah, you've obviously signed quite well, I think. Well, the manager has. You've got Gary Deegan, who was a teammate of yours last year, brought in there. I thought he was a really good player for Shells last year. You've obviously bought in other departments. You got Diddy Corker there. So you've got good experience of the Premier Division in that squad as well, kind of mixing in with the youth of what you have there.
Yeah, I think that's really important to have a nice balance. But what I like about Drogheda is they've kept their core group together, because they had a lot of good players. They've had a lot of good players for the last few years. They're, yourself, it's very tough to get out of that first division. Regardless of the quality squad you have, you need a bit of luck. And thankfully they got up, and they kept a majority of the players that got them up, which I think is important, like obviously for loyalty. But in terms of like the actual quality there, I think the players like myself and Dinny, Deegs, Rowan and Dara, they're all quality players, and I think that will stand us in good stead. And most importantly, like you said, they do have Premier Division experience, so it's not like they're coming in unknown. Can they play at this level? I think the signings have been really good.
I think as well, for your own sake, Dan, obviously beating teams that are probably going to be around you. A lot of people have tipped Waterford now. I know you probably won't say that, but a lot of people have tipped Waterford to be down in the relegation battle. So I think it's key to get the results against the teams that are going to be around you, obviously in the longer term of the season.
Yeah, of course. It's very hard because it's so early to know who's going to be down there. Look, the pundits or the media will have their predictions, and it's always the same every year. You'll get teams surprising you and other teams that are just it was always going to be that way. But for us, especially when we were playing Waterford, we didn't really know what we were going up against, because they've obviously brought in a lot of players on loan from England, which they do every year. So, look, they've had some really good players over the last few years on loan, like the likes of Matty Smith and Ali Koo, who were there last year and made a really good impact. So, what wasn't to say that was going to be the same on Friday night where they had these good players? I think they'll come good. They're obviously a full-time outfit. They've got good managers there. So, I wouldn't really be tipping them to go down as such. I think it's a long year. There's 36 games. A lot can happen over that.
Yeah, I actually think that kind of showed with Shells last season, the way people thought Shells were safe after the lockdown or whatever, and obviously that didn't go that way. But so you've got St. Pat's up next. Are you confident going into that one?
Yeah, I think the result from Friday will give us confidence going to Richmond. Like I said to you, if we didn't get a result, you're going in away to Pats, it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a really tough game, but having 3 points on the board and knowing that we can get a result, I think, look, we'll go in and we'll obviously play our best, have a game plan, and just enjoy it and just see, hopefully we can get a result.
Yeah, well, huge thanks to Dan for taking the time out to have a chat with us. Really, really appreciate it, and best of luck against Pats now on Friday, or is it Saturday?
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah. Thanks very much for having me on, Paul. Appreciate it.
No bother. Take care. Thank you. Okay, on to the showgrounds. Sligo Rovers 1, Dundalk 1. Patrick McElhenney, with the goal for Dundalk, and Romeo Parks with the equaliser for Sligo Rovers in the 22nd minute. Again, another game in which, on the back end of last season, you're probably thinking this is a kind of fair result, although you would probably be expecting Dundalk to win. A couple of what's the word I would use here? I wouldn't say dodgy decisions regarding offside, but definitely talking points regarding a certain goal that was given as offside, and many people were questioning it. But from the result point of view, Gary, what were your thoughts when you saw this one finish 1-1?
Yeah, I thought it was probably a fair result. Now, I only watched the highlights, but I did speak to a friend of mine in Dundalk, and he always gives me a balanced view of the game. And he thought, look, he was happy enough to get the point in the end because, look, it was a game they could have won. They hit the post, they hit the woodwork in the second half, but so did Sligo. And it was probably a fair result, and probably if anyone deserved to win it, maybe it was Sligo, but it sounds like 1-1 was a fair result. Good start for Dundalk, as you said, 15 minutes in, a good press, and probably a mistake by Ed McGinty, and Patrick McElhenney finished it. But Sligo responded very well. A great header from Romeo Parks, a free header as well. And after that, I suppose it was there to be won by either side. But as I said, probably a fair result in the end. I suppose from a Dundalk point of view, they didn't lose any ground. They will be looking at Shamrock Rovers probably. If you want to win the league, they're going to need to finish ahead of everyone, obviously, but particularly Shamrock Rovers. So they didn't lose any ground in Rovers this weekend, but they did miss an opportunity to lay down a marker and go a couple of points ahead of them. From a Sligo Rovers perspective, look, their form before lockdown last year was terrible. They were bottom of the table. They looked in real danger of relegation, came roaring out of the blocks after lockdown, had a fantastic second half of the season, qualified for Europe, and they've certainly built on that now again. And this will be a very good start for them. A point against, let's be realistic, a team that's expected to challenge for the title. So I think from a Sligo Rovers perspective, they'll be very happy with the performance in particular and with the point.
Yeah, I think you're right in saying that. And as well, I watched Dundalk at the President's Cup, and there's not really you can take from those types of games in terms of, over the course of the season, because generally speaking, it's just one of those games. But you got to look at the quality in which Dundalk have. Like, people talking about them losing players now, but they still got the likes of like Chris Shields, Patrick McElhenney. Again, if he can stay fit, he is key to Dundalk. They've got Darragh Leahy. Even their keeper, Abibi, he looks good as well. Do you know what I mean? He looked good against Shamrock Rovers. I thought he was his big unit. And just
they're going to lose 3 players on his senior international duty this week. And they're going to be missing for the Finn Harps game, and potentially not. If they're only coming back just in time for the Rovers game. So I mean. Yeah, I know you might say they're going to countries like Albania, the Faroe Islands and Latvia, but they're still good enough to be senior internationals playing against top-class opposition. And so as you said, it shows the quality, not just of the domestic players you mentioned, but of the quality of the players they've brought in. So it is... there is a lot of quality there, and I think Dundalk are going to be a serious threat this season.
Yeah, no, I think that the right back as well, Jankowskis, I think is how you say it. But he looked really good against Rovers, and probably should have. I remember he got into the box and probably should have had a shot, but it crossed across the box, and he was in a much better position to probably shoot. But he looked really good from an attacking point of view. And as you say, international players there. Your man Nadistad looks really good from that game, and it looks like he could be suspended as well. It looks like that he could be getting banned. I've seen James Rogers tweeting out the other day he could be getting the ban for getting the red card in that President's Cup game. So he may miss a couple of games as well. But he's an absolute giant of a player, and I think he will be really good over the course of the season. Now, people say, the red card, but was never a red card. From where I was sitting in the game, I was literally directly across from it, and I know the angle makes it look like it wasn't that bad of a challenge because I watched it back. But definitely from where I was sitting at the time, I was like, wow, that's a bit extreme. But I could definitely see why Dundalk fans who were probably watching at home or whatever were giving me a stick about it. But I did, like, in real time, it did look really dangerous. But I think he'll learn from it anyway. Obviously, as you said, he's an international defender and stuff like that. But I think he will be a really good player over the course of the season. And I just think Dundalk have quality there. You got to remember, like Pat Hoban and David McMillan, any other team in the league would love to have those two strikers at their disposal. And they've got Junior as well. So they've got goals in the team. I think, again, they'll just take a little while to click probably. And then once they click, I think they'll show their quality over the course of the season. Sligo Rovers, I believe Greg Bolger was absolutely unbelievable in the game, which is to be expected because, you know, he's a real leader in teams and stuff like that. I think he brought that mentality to Shamrock Rovers when he was there as well. Obviously did with Cork as well. He's won things most places he's been. Jack Byrne actually on LOI Weekly or whatever it's called now, LOI Central I think it's called now. He basically said that, you know, Greg Bolger is going to be a huge miss to Shamrock Rovers. Do you know? So if somebody like Jack Byrne is saying, you tend to start listening. So I think Sligo Rovers have signed really well there, getting him in there. They obviously got Parks back in there as well, and they've kind of added to what they've had. So I think it's a fair result in the end, as you say, because, you know, Dundalk hitting the woodwork a couple of times, and then obviously the offside goal as well. But I believe Johnny Kenny as well was unbelievable in the game from a Sligo point of view as well. He's only 17. And I've seen rave reviews about him as well. So all in all, I think it was a fair result. And for me, it shows that there's going to be a lot of competition in the league this year.
Yeah, there's no easy games. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but there won't be any easy games in this league. And that's been borne out by the results from day one. There's certainly been no hammerings. And look, you have to be on your game every week to get a result, and that's why it's so tough to win the league, as I was saying, and even tougher to retain it. And all the games you can make the case for that, and it makes it from a neutral, as a fan of Treaty United in the First Division. I can certainly be neutral in the Premier Division. It's a very exciting league to watch because it makes the games entertaining, and there shouldn't be too many formalities from that perspective.
Yeah, well, I spoke with Sligo Rovers fan and host of The Changing Room with EJ Menswear, Mark Halton, and he gave a fairly balanced opinion on the game here. You can check it out. Now I'm joined by Sligo Rovers fan Mark Halton, also on the EJ Menswear podcast as well. He's the host there, and he's here to give us a lowdown on the Sligo Rovers versus Dundalk game at the showground. So Mark, take it away.
Yeah, good opening game, Paul. Suppose the first 20 minutes were very scattered. No real football played, a little bit all over the place. Probably understandable. Both teams were probably very keen to get onto the pitch and just get it started. Dundalk probably had the better patterns of play when it did kind of kick off. Obviously, they got a goal from our mistake. It is what it is. It's something we'll be hoping that we'll have got that out of the system. If the truth be told, it'd be strange for me to say from a Sligo Rovers point of view, it was probably the best thing that happened. Because once Dundalk scored, we seemed to start playing a little bit better, little patterns of play. Greg Bolger, if you're talking about outstanding performances from last night, there was any amount of it from the Sligo Rovers point of view. Obviously, I try not to be too biased. Pat Hoban obviously missed a couple of chances for Dundalk. We'll get into that in the second half. In terms of the first half, after Dundalk scored, we pulled one back with Romeo Parks. We did kind of get a bit more of a grasp on the game. Greg was brilliant in midfield. The most impressive thing, I suppose, last night was the way we kind of pressed from the front. I was very, very happy with that from a Sligo Rovers point of view. I think Greg Bolger looked like he had an awful lot to do with it. He had them all singing off the same hymn sheet in terms of with young Johnny Kenny and the rest of them. So we got over the first half. Started the second half, again, to be honest, probably Dundalk were probably the better team. Put a couple of nice passes of play together, especially when the likes of Duffy and that come on. Look, they still have strong attackers. Junior was there. Pat Hoban, I suppose, as I was saying there, we probably feel hard done by. We'll get the decision at the end of the game. we kind of felt hard done by last night. We felt we were robbed with the offside decision. Looking back now, after having time to settle down, Pat Hoban, he missed an absolute sitter at the front post. Probably he'd score it every other day, and he hit the post as well. So all things considered, if you had probably offered us a point at the start of the game, we definitely would have taken it, Paul. But looking back now, having that chance at the end, it's just a little bit hard to take. I think everybody's watched it from a million angles. I don't know how it was given offside. But overall, very, very, very pleased with the performance. I think it's been a long time since we went into a season as positive as we did last night. And there's always the fear, have we overhyped it? All you want is a decent performance and to see that there's a plan in place and for the players to work their socks off. We got all three last night. Again, as I said, I wouldn't like to pick out players for special treatment, but John Mahon last night, I know we spoke about him last week, Paul. He was just absolutely unreal, and I'm not lying. Junior didn't get a sniff. He a couple of tackles he made last night, as we spoke about it, the injury he had last year. As I said, I think he's going to be one of the best centre halves in the league in the next couple of years. He was just unbelievable last night. He's quick, he's strong, he was brilliant. There was a case at the end of the game where Dundalk were just about to go on the counter-attack. There was only a couple of games left. They had a couple of men over on us. It was on the commentary side, the old stand side, and John Mann came flying across. If he missed the ball, he was gone. It was a red card, and he nearly put Junior flying over the stand. It was an absolutely brilliant tackle. Moving into the midfield, obviously, as I spoke about Greg was absolutely unreal last night. We looked like we found that fella who can just drive us forward. He can put his foot on the ball at times. He's not afraid of a tackle. He was just absolutely superb. He looked like he was orchestrating the whole lot yesterday, and it was just brilliant. I know last season I spoke a good bit about, I felt maybe at times we lacked a number 10. I know we had last year, we talked about Coughlin and Junior and DeVries, and we had all the kind of the flair, but maybe just lacking that little player to knit the play from midfield to the centre forward. And I think although Gibson started out on the wing, I think he drifted inside. I think we're after getting a real player. Look, I know it's only after one game. You're not going to get too far ahead of yourself, but we're here to talk about the game last night. He was absolutely brilliant. So silky on the ball. You just fancied every time he got the ball, something was going to happen. So absolutely delighted with him. Romeo came back. Great header. We seen Aaron Green's header in Tal on Friday night. Romeo's was just as good. Last night it was absolutely brilliant. He came off. We were surprised to see him come off. The young lad that came on instead of him, Mark Byrne, absolutely brilliant when he came on. The subs were good last night. I think we spoke about the strength and depth in our squad this year is definitely something that's improved. We had players to bring off the bench last night. You were just delighted to see them come on. And I couldn't finish up without talking about young Johnny Kenny up front. Obviously, he's a player that there's been a lot of hype about him. I suppose you're nearly trying to play it down a wee bit. He played last night. I didn't realise until I watched it, like the Dundalk defence are giants. They're absolute giants. He gave a wee bit back to them at one stage. His movement was brilliant. To play against, come in on your competitive debut. I mean, some of these fellas were playing in the Emirates only a couple of months ago. By the end of the game, they were delighted to get out of Sligo with a point last night. I know they had their chances as well, but they were absolutely delighted to get out of the Showgrounds with a point last night. I'll tell you that, Paul, by the end of that game, because we finished really, really strong. But Johnny was brilliant. His running off the ball nearly got a goal or two as well. His movement was brilliant. For a light lad, he used his body well. He didn't get involved. He didn't get involved where it was going to get into a kind of a fight with the centre half. So in that terms, he was just brilliant. So overall, I'll stop me ranting now. I was absolutely chuffed with last night, Paul. Couldn't have asked for a better start. Thought we were going to get the 3 points at the end. I felt we were robbed. There's a couple of photos there, and there's replays, or not replays from the LOI watch, but if you do watch it back, you can see, we probably were done at the end there. But again, after having time to calm down, they had their chances as well. If before the game you offered me the points and a good performance, you probably would have taken. As I said, some of these lads were playing in the Emirates only a couple of weeks ago. So overall, delighted with the start. It's only one game. We were positive going into it, but they worked their socks off last night, and we look forward to the game next week.
Brilliant stuff, Mark. Thanks very much for that. And guys, anyone watching or listening here, make sure to check out the Change Room on YouTube, Spotify, and the rest of the links as well. Huge thanks to Mark for giving us his input on the Sligo versus Dundalk game. Huge thanks, Mark.
No hassle, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Okay, on to the shock result probably of the weekend, or one of the two shock results of the weekend. Finn Harps 1-0 win over Bohs, which I didn't foresee. I expected Bohs to probably hit the ground running. I know they've lost a lot of players as well, so maybe it was a bit naive from me to probably think that. And Finn Harps, in fairness, to their credit, they kept a lot of their players from last season. I think that was going to be crucial for them to have that chemistry within the team and stuff like that. A lot of players knowing what to expect from other players rather than kind of having to build up new relationships season upon season. So I think this was a really good result for them. Obviously Adam Foley getting the goal for Finn Harps, sorry. And they were gifted the goal, really, weren't they, from Bohs?
Yeah, it was a James Finnerty back pass that he left short. And quick as a flash, Adam Foley nipped in and finished it past James Talbot. And it came very much against the run of play. I mean, Bohs had been the better side, I think, before the goal. And they were probably the better side as well after the goal. I know Finn Harps fans may not be too happy with me for saying that. But Bohs probably had most of the possession, but Finn Harps defended really well. And look, I'm talking about tough places to go earlier on with Drogheda, probably the toughest, and Sligo, but one of the toughest places to go is certainly Ballybuffet. When Finn Harps and you've got Ollie Horgan and Paul Hegarty there, they always get 100% from the players. A fantastic management team, and just Harps keep defying the odds year in, year out, and that's a fantastic start to the season for them. And I suppose every season you're talking about Finn Harps, and maybe you're hoping just to stay up or get the relegation playoff. And I think last season certainly they surpassed expectations. And remember, they beat Bohs in Dalymount last season towards the end of the season as well. And this has been a fantastic start for them, because you're looking at Finn Harps start home to Bohs, away to Dundalk. It's a tough start, and you could feel they were going to be in a relegation battle from the start, and suddenly they start with a win, and what confidence that's going to bring the side, and what a start to the season. From a Bohs perspective, I still expect Bohs to be challenging up near the top of the table. I suppose the worry is that they lost. I mean, they had such a prolific front three last year. Now, I know they lost Chris Twardick in September, but then to lose Andre Wright and Danny Grant, it's going to be very tough for Keith Long to replace them. And even though they probably played the better football on Saturday evening and had most of the chances, the lack of goals could be a concern, but it might be way too much to read into one game. And I certainly expect Bohs to win a lot more than they lose, and probably be back up challenging for Europe again.
And don't forget in that strikers and wingers kind of as well, Mandreo as well left for Rovers as well.
Of course, yeah, well. Absolutely, yeah.
And Dinny Corcoran they lost as well, so pretty much their whole strike force from last season is gone. Like, you know, they brought in Alua from Shamrock Rovers, who more so than the senior team, and they brought in Georgie Kelly as well, who obviously is a really good striker when he gets the goals and stuff like that. But I think once he gets a goal, he'll start to kind of go on from there and do really well. I think he's a really quality striker. I think he's probably not benefited at Dundalk in terms of having to play second fiddle to Pat Hubin, but most teams in the league would love to have Pat Hubin at that club, because he's just that good. He's probably the best striker in the league and has been for the last number of years anyway. I mean, the goal charts pretty much show that, don't they? But I think with Bohs, yeah, I think it's just a matter of kind of getting a few more games, getting a bit more of an understanding of the new signings and stuff like that, bedding them in, and then eventually I think it will click. And again, it's hard to just read into too much after one game. You know, I think, look, if Bohs had got the first goal in the game, who's to know that they wouldn't have went on and you know, won 2 or 3-0. The fact is, Finn Harps got the goal against the run of play, as you said. They were gifted a goal, and Bohs will have to learn from it. I'm sure Keith Long was absolutely fuming at the fact that they were gifted a goal. I know James Talbot was, from his reaction. But fair play to Finn Harps. All you can do is beat what's in front of you. You said there, they've got Bohs and Dundalk. If you had said to them before the game that you would have taken 3 points out of 6 out of those games, I think they would have bitten your hand off for that before a ball was kicked. Now they could potentially be going in and maybe get 4 or 6 points out of 6. It depends on how they get on against Dundalk, of course. But they've put themselves in a really good position. I think it was key for them to start off with a win this season for them. I think they're actually going to be a decent side this year because they finished off last season a really good run of form and momentum on their side, and I think they'll continue that this season. I think from looking at them, all the players kind of know what they're about. They've had a chance to kind of work together. They've a chance to keep their team together, so they'll have a bit more know-how of how each other play and stuff like that. And I think that's key because a lot of teams are, with the League of Ireland naturally, a lot of teams are having to kind of basically buy and replace, I'd say, about 10 players. And Finn Harps didn't really need to do that. They kept basically the core group and added in little bits here and there. And they kept a lot of their bigger players as well. So fair play to them.
Yeah, and one thing I will say about Bohs is that Keith Long in recent years has had to transform the side. I mentioned all the players he lost. I mean, 2 years ago he lost a lot of his best players as well and still pulled out the performance last season. And don't forget they lost their opening match last year as well and still went on to finish in a clear second place, qualify for Europe, and again had done so well in Europe last year, so unlucky to go out in penalties. So I certainly wouldn't be writing Bohs off yet. I think they're going to come back very strong, and Keith Long keeps finding players. So I've no concerns from Bohs from that perspective. But a fantastic start for Finn Harps.
Yeah, I caught up with Finn Harps, centre back David Webster, and here's what he had to say on the game. So we're joined on the line by David Webster from Finn Harps after a big victory last night in Ballybuffet against Bohemians, a 1-0 victory. David, what are your thoughts on the game? How did you feel like it went?
Yeah, how's it going, Paul? It went very well in the end. I think the 3 points was a must. It was very, very important to get 3 points on the board as quick as possible this season, get us up and running. So we felt Saturday night there was a big opportunity to do so, and I think he approached the game in the right manner, managed it well at times, and he was just delighted to get 3 points in the end.
Just on Finn Harps, because I'd spoke to you towards the back end of last season in Talca Park, and you were just saying how you were feeling a bit confident and stuff like that, of even staying up at that point, as it was kind of tick for tat between Finn Harps and Shells at that point. But you seem to be towards the back end of last season. You obviously beat Bohs, got a good run of momentum or whatever. But do you feel like you can continue that this season? Now you've got a settled squad. I suppose you kept the bones of last season's squad, and you're able to kind of build on that this season.
Yeah, I think that was massive. I'm sure Ali would say himself that he had a hard time trying to keep everybody over the off season, and he's done a very good job keeping everybody. From a player's perspective, I know my view on it was massive that we kept everybody together, and especially the core and maybe 70-80% of the squad that we finished with, because the last run of 10-11 games was kind of an eye opener for us that we can actually maybe be better than what we were, we started very slow back after the lockdown and the extended break we had, so we kind of felt we were in a false position in the league to an extent. Never did we think that we should be up the other end and doing ending up there, but I suppose this season, look, you got to take it game by game. I know it's as cliche as it sounds. A big result on Saturday there. We at least you got to take one game at a time. We've got a really tough game now next Friday, and you've seen how the results went this weekend. A couple of teams sprung up a few surprises, so it's going to be a very competitive league again this year, and we just want to be competitive and just try and itch our way up the table as much as we can. But look, one of the no illusions of where we should be or where we can be. Obviously we want to be up the top half of the seat or the top half of the table, but it's very difficult to break into that maybe middle half and get up to the top. So it's going to take a lot of hard work, which we're willing to do. So we just got to wait and see where it takes us.
How key is it though to just get off to a flyer as you did? Like Bohs were tipped to be right amongst if the top two, definitely in the top 3 for the European places, and got a massive. I know you were a gift to the goal, but still got the victory.
Yeah, look, it's supposed to be back. Obviously it's not the start they wanted. They've got an absolute fantastic group of players there, and you obviously know someone who've been playing against them over the years, and they've got a great manager in Keith Long as well. I'm sure they'll be up thereabouts of where they expect to be come the end of the season. Maybe you just caught them at a good time, getting them at the first game, and but they started the game very, very well. They looked brighter than us, fitter, sharper than us. It took us a good 20-25 minutes to get into it, and once we got into it, then we grew in confidence and kind of thought, we can get something out of this game. And lo and behold, Adam was just at the right place at the right time. He gambles then all the time. He does, so it was great to see him get a goal, that kind of goal, because plays on the shoulder a lot like that. He takes a lot of chances, and for one of them to pay off, it's great for him.
So you mustn't have any fear, obviously coming up against Bohs, you mustn't have any fear now against other teams. And I'm not saying, I know it was a one-off game or whatever, but I mean, Bohs were right to probably the last couple of games last season. They were right there up until probably you bet them last year. He's kind of have their number at the moment.
We've had a couple of good results against them the last 2 games, obviously. But no, look, Bohs made a lot of signings as well. Maybe it's just a thing of some of them gelling in. Maybe it was literally you might have just got them at the right time and kind of done a number on them, really. But we really the game. Look, we rode our luck at times in the game. They put us under immense pressure there the last half an hour, 25 to half an hour, and but we soaked it up reasonably well, which we were happy about. We did give up a couple of chances, which are going to do. It's first game of the season, lads getting tired, and but I think we dealt with it particularly well. But each team brings a different challenge, and how we go to Dundalk now will be a totally different game. So I suppose you got to take each week as it comes and each game as it comes.
Yeah, well, just on that note, obviously, best of luck next week, and a huge thanks for taking the time out to have a chat with us.
Yeah, no problem at all, pal. Thanks a million.
Top man. Okay, on to Bishopsgate and another shock, I suppose you would say. Longford Town 2-0 victory over Derry City. Dylan Grimes with the first goal on 8 minutes, and Joe Gorman with the second goal on 72 minutes. Key for Longford to get a result with the first game of the season, whether that had been a draw or a win. They got a win, an emphatic win if you look at it, and Derry wasn't the start that they would have hoped or wanted for at all.
No, we'll start with Longford though, because that was absolutely amazing. A fantastic start. I mean, few people, and I'll count myself in it, expected them to come out of the playoffs last season. They did a phenomenal job in getting promotion, and I think few of us expected them to stay up. I think most people, when they were looking at the start of the season, were probably having Longford in 10th place out of 10. And I know, unfortunately, for a friend of mine in the League of Ireland Last Man Standing, I was actually recommending that he pick Derry City this weekend, which he did. And he's unfortunately out of it in week 1. So I'll put my hand up and say I got this one totally wrong. But hats off to Longford, because that was a superb performance and a superb win. They're top of the table, first time ever in the club's history that they sit top of the table after a round of matches. I know they had a chance about 20 years ago when they went to Ballybuffet needing a win to go top, and they just couldn't do it. They drew 2-2, but I'm pretty certain this is the first time ever topping the League of Ireland after one match. I know it's week 1 and it's a big ask to expect them to stay there, but what a start. Yeah, they start the game really well. They pressed Derry high up the pitch. They had Rob Manley and Dylan Grimes up top, and they were causing a lot of problems. And as you said, Paul, Dylan Grimes got the early goal set up by Rob Manley. And that was crucial for Longford. And they just pressed Derry. They were the better team, and they fully deserved it. A. Dervin is always a player I've liked in the first division. Lovely footballer. Always looked class, always a player I expected probably could play at a higher level. Now he's getting his chance in the Premier Division. And it was his free kick actually set up the second goal at Nathan Garside, just couldn't hold on to it. And as I said, Joe Gorman nipped in and scored. and a fully deserved win for Longford. And what a start! And they're going to make a mockery, I suppose, of those of us who expected them to finish 10th. And now maybe I still expect Longford to be involved in a relegation battle. Don't get me wrong, but this is going to give them great confidence. And what a start! Then you move on to Derry City, and it's a major, major disappointment for them. And I'm already reading stuff on social media that Declan Devine is under pressure now. I think that's a bit premature and very harsh, but it is a really worrying start from a Derry City point of view. I mean, they have spent quite a bit of money. They've got in some good players. I'm looking forward to seeing how Joe Hodge does in this league. And Derry didn't have a great season last season. They were sucked into a relegation battle they really shouldn't have been in. And this is a bad start for them. And I suppose they're just a little bit fortunate that the Shamrock Rovers game this weekend is actually off, because I think the last thing you probably want to face is the champions coming off not a bad result. The champions coming off not a not good result on Friday night, and it would have been a very, very tough game for Derry. So probably a little bit fortunate that the game is called off. But then the flip side to that is, when we come to round 3, they're going to be down at the bottom of the table. So they're going to be under pressure to get a result, and not a good start. So worrying times for those in the Brandywell, but what a start for Longford, and hats off to Dara Doyle on his side.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. I think the objective for Declan Devine and Derry is European football this season, and starting off like this isn't gonna bode well for them. And I do agree with you. I think he is going to be under pressure straight away. It is good that the game obviously has been postponed, because Cartside's got a call up to the Northern Ireland team, so the game's been postponed. But I think it came at a good time, because if they can get a result in their next game, I think that kind of puts that away for a while, and he can crack on a little bit. Joe Hodge is obviously injured at the moment, so it could be a chance for him as well to come maybe step up his recovery in that time. He might be back then for the next game that they play. I'm not sure when it is, but from a Longford point of view, I think Dara Doyle deserves a lot of credit in terms of the players he's brought in have been largely unexperienced in the Premier Division, and he's brought them in and he's believed in them, and he's given them a platform to go out there and perform. The likes of Dylan Grimes and these types of players who probably didn't get a chance in the Premier Division before. So, great result for them. I'm sure they'll be looking to capitalise on that, and go on from there. And I wouldn't foresee them being, a mid-table club or whatever. But I think Kieran, we had on for the season preview as well, pretty much said, playoff place is probably going to be what their aim is going to be. But look, if they can get results like this against a side like Derry, there's no reason why they can't go out and get results against other teams that are kind of thereabouts around the league table,
Yeah, it's a very unforgiving league, I think, this year, Paul, though. And normally the playoff, it was often the target for Finn Harps. Normally the playoff, when you're in a relegation battle and in such a tough competitive 10-team first Premier Division, the playoff can be a good target. I think this year could be a bad year to be in the playoff, though, because if you look at the First Division, you have a very strong full-time Galway side, you have a very, very strong Shelbourne side as well, and you have Cork City, who are going to be decent. And one of those teams obviously is going to come up automatically. I think it's nailed on. One of the others will come through in the playoff. So it's going to be very tough for whichever Premier Division side ends up in the playoff. So obviously you want to avoid 10th place in automatic relegation, but even 9th place is going to be very, very difficult. So I think a lot of teams will be trying to target 8th this season rather than 9th. And it's going to be very, very competitive at the bottom.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's going to be such a hard season as well. I think the fact that there's no fans as well, that no one really has a real advantage at the moment. I think that may help teams that are down near the bottom. I think it may also hinder teams. I think it hindered Shelburne last year towards the end of the season. I think it may have helped Finn Harps last season, so you just never really know. But Ger Brown was obviously at the game, and he was speaking to manager of Longford, Dara Doyle, and goal scorer Dylan Grimes, and you can hear that here.
Dara, you look nice and composed and calm there, but I say inside you're absolutely bouncing. What a great start. 5 years out of the Premier Division, you couldn't have asked for a better return.
No, of course. Listen, I'm delighted. It was an excellent performance and a game I felt we dominated. I think we played some excellent football. I think we worked really hard and pressed them in areas which made it difficult for them to play. And really happy to come out on the right side of a 2-0 result. A clean sheet, a great performance, and loads of positives going into our next games to show what this group is capable of this year.
Now, you're always largely in control of this game, but 1-0 is always a dangerous lead. So when you've seen Joe Gorman shot hit the back of the net, was it just kind of relief and you kind of knew we have a good lead now to kind of relax a little bit for the last 20 minutes or so?
Yeah, no, of course it is. It's always nice to go up by an extra goal, but on the flip side, with 20 minutes to go, if the opposition get a goal in any given minute, you're in for a nervy last few minutes. What we did is we managed to control the game really well, even after going 2-0 up. It wasn't probably until injury time or the last 5 or 6 minutes that they looked to go a bit more direct from deeper positions, where we had to change our setup a little bit and change our setup so we could react and be there for the second balls and for the first ball as well, and I felt we did that really well. They didn't really create a chance where they tested Lee late in the game, although they did cause problems at set pieces and throw-ins. I thought we dealt with it on the whole really well and created a number of chances ourselves, and on another day we could have scored another 1 or 2 ourselves.
Yeah, you touched on the defensive game a small bit there. I think it's kind of fair to say if you're going to have a good season and reach your targets defensively, you're going to need to be solid this season. And I thought tonight you were excellent, and just throw in the fact as well that 2 of your new signings in that back four as well tonight, Paddy Kirk, okay, he has played in this division before, but Aaron O'Driscoll, a new player coming in from a different country, that must just give you fantastic encouragement, delight.
Yeah, no, it does. Listen, we're delighted to get Paddy in. He was one of our early signings. We were delighted to get that done. He was a player we've tried to bring to the club in previous seasons and didn't manage to do that. And now, obviously, with the position we're in now, with being a Premier club, we were delighted to bring Paddy to the club. He had a really strong performance tonight, and it was great to see that. As regards Aaron O'Driscoll, that was a deal we tried to get done a little bit earlier, and it took a bit of time to get it done. Obviously, he had to quarantine with coming over from the UK, but as a Dublin-based player, that's where he's from. It's great that he's come over. He's very fit and fresh because he hasn't probably played as many games as he's wanted in League Two for Mansfield this year. He's a player that I've known of for years with his, I suppose, Cherry Orchard and a couple of clubs before he went over to the UK, and I knew what he could contribute to this team, and we were delighted to get the deal done, and I felt he put in a commanding performance tonight alongside Joe Gorman, in which they marshalled Parkhouse very, very well and gave him very, very few opportunities.
I was just counting up and doing a bit of research during the week. I think still out of your whole squad, 12 players have still at some stage have previously played in the Premier Division. So when you're a new team up, how important is that? Because you have a large group of players who know exactly what to expect at this standard.
Yeah, listen, we've got a number of players that have played at this level, but we've also got a number of players that have been together at First Division level for 3 or 4 years. They've worked hard together, they've trained together, they've played together, and they have a camaraderie. They stick together, they know each other's game. And I feel we have players that are now coming into their best years. They're young lads, a lot of these lads, and I feel that they can compete at this, not just some of the lads that have Premier Division from previously, some of the lads that we have that only have First Division experience, the likes of a Dean Byrne and a Dylan Grimes. Look how good those lads were today that have only played First Division. So we've got a number of exciting young players in the group that have a point to prove. Much like the club, people will write us off and have done. And we're delighted we're able to put in a performance like we did tonight to dominate a game against Derry City, who are expected to be probably challenging for a European place. So it shows with performances and the players in the group we have a really strong bench as well, and squad and players that were even left out tonight. So add all those things together and we give ourselves a good chance of competing every week.
Yeah, next up, Bohemians Away. They also played tonight at 6 o'clock, so you obviously haven't had a chance to look at that game, but I'm sure you'll get a chance to look at it on the side the next couple of hours, a day or two, and preparation will then start for that game. Yeah, no, listen, it definitely will. We're really looking forward to going to Dalymount next week, and it's a game we'll be prepared for. We'll have a look at the game and we'll watch it and work on the things that we'll have to face them and the challenges that await us, but it's something that I can't wait for. You know, we come off a big positive today with a positive performance, and going into next week we know what's expected and we know what's required. We won't become complacent and think that we've had one great result. We know it's going to be really tough. We know we need to work really hard, but we've got a really high level of quality in this team that, you know, they'll surprise people, and we will surprise people. As I just mentioned, they're 2-0 win. What a fantastic start.
Yeah, it's a great way to start the season. Listen, the boys have put the hard work in pre-season. and it just goes to show you in the first game, but it's only the first game, can't get carried away.
Yeah, and you got the ball rolling, you got the first goal early on in the game. Do you remember kind of much about it? You still had a lot of work to when you picked up the ball out in the wing on the right hand side.
Yeah, well, I'm comfortable getting the ball in around the box, and once you're in the box, you don't shoot, you're not going to score, so it's just instinct.
Did you know straight away when you left for a boot? Because it
was one of those feelings, yeah. It was one of those feelings, yeah.
Yeah, and just the way you even kind of kicked on after that, you had a good chance then just before half time. Dean shot wide, and then in the second half, like they did kind of seem to come back into have a bit of a purple patch for 5 or 10 minutes, but you seem to weather that storm very, very comfortably.
Listen, that's going to happen in games. You're going to have spells without the ball, particularly with the teams in this league. Everyone can play. They're very good. So I think we weathered it quite well. And yeah, we got the 3 points.
Yeah, and you know, it's amazing when you think back, like it's your first time up here in 5 years. The way it ended kind of last season, I know there's a good break in between 3 or 4 months of that, but the fact that you ended last season so well with them big victories, and similar to kind of tonight, you were underdogs in a lot of them playoff games. Do you think even momentum has kind of carried through?
Yeah, I think we come back after the break last season. We struggled in the league, but we literally just made the playoffs. We literally just made it, but once we got to the playoffs, we knew we had to work hard. We knew we needed to get up. That's where the club belongs, so yeah.
Yeah, it's no two ways about that. And like it kind of seems as well, you have a good bunch of players there. Like a lot of new signings came in. I think 3 of them started tonight, and they all seem to just kind of jet in and play very well. The likes of Aaron O'Driscoll, Paddy Kirk. I'm forgetting someone else's name there, but it just seems as if you have a good bunch as well. Like,
see, we trained pre-season. It was quite a long pre-season, so we got in quite early and we got used to playing with each other. We had a lot of games, training nearly every day, so we kind of pick her up quite quick. So
yeah, and then just finally, of course, now next week you carry on. You go on the road to Damon Park to take on Bohemians. They were beaten 1-0 tonight against Finn Harps, but I think you're probably all wise enough to know this is the team that finished second in the Premier Division last year. They've been building under Keith Long. It's still going to be a tricky game.
Yeah, well, they're going to a reaction to the loss is huge, especially in this league. So we'll know what we're up against, and we'll literally have to put in the same 90 minutes we did here, 90 plus. So
don't forget too carried away with the cans or anything like that tonight.
Nah, back to training tomorrow. Recovery.
Cheers, Dylan.
Cheers, thank you.
Yeah, so obviously that is the end of our League of Ireland show, and huge thanks to everyone who contributed to this show. And we're on now for our international break now. Ireland are obviously playing against Serbia. We're going to have lots of content on that over the course of the week, so make sure you've subscribed to the channel if you're enjoying the content. Please don't forget to like the video as well, and yeah, check out our other social media platforms as well, and we look forward to speaking to you soon. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll speak to you later on. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.